look at these vegetative forms. Do a little bit more here. Is this making sense, all the stuff with the ferns? It's actually quite easy to do, and when you get into it, if you start playing with what patterns you can lay down, it can become fairly effortless and fun. It's one of the fun parts of a drawing for me is doing this kind of stuff, because a little can evoke a lot. Okay, now I'm going to go in with a Sharpie permanent line marker. At this point, I stopped using the dip pen because I've laid down my corrections and done my drawing with the whiteout, and I don't want to have to go back over an area 2 or 3 times because too much ink suddenly came out of the tip, which it will tend to do at this stage because this is not a perfectly flat surface where I've worked with the whiteout. You know, there's contours and ridges, and all it takes is for the ink to catch a little bit of that, and bang, you've suddenly got a large black crater instead of an eye. So at this point, I'll tend to go in and use Sharpie, and I'll do this on my pro jobs as well, not just sketches like this one I'm doing, because I want to minimize the need to go back with whiteout again in this drawing. This is also the stage where I'll go in and I'll sharpen up forms that are still loose and sketchy, like these teeth. I'll add, notice I'm adding a few lines on the edge of this form so that it indicates scales a bit better. And I'll also try to eliminate any really straight lines that are still left on the form, because animals tend not to have straight lines as part of them. Plants, that's another issue, but with animals, straight lines really rarely occur in the animal kingdom. In time, I mean, I warn people when they buy sketches on my website, for instance, that, you know, markers do fade in time with exposure to light. You know, this is a demo drawing, first of all, and I tend to use the permanent markers. More and more people now, when they frame or display art, will tend to use the UV protected glass and so on, so it's less of an issue. But, you know, I got to tell you, a lot of tools that we use that say permanent on them are not. Whiteout will tend to chip over time and come off the paper. You know, some inks will fade, or in some cases, if you live in a part of the country or part of New England that's prone to dampness, some markers and some ink can bleed into paper if it keeps being saturated by damp weather. There's a lot of issues to watch out for. But for me, I've ended up settling on the Sharpie because I'm pretty happy with the results, and I don't have the problems that I do with a dip pen. And they tend to last pretty well. I mean, I've got some drawings dating back to the 70s that I came across, and the ones that I did working with markers, in some cases, the blacks are still black. And that's what you were asking about. So. Are those drawings also dinosaurs? No, they're of all kinds of things, actually, Jen. I don't just draw dinosaurs. No, actually, some of them were drawings of eyeballs running around, but I don't know what that had to do with anything. Okay, one part of this drawing I really fudged was this hand. So I'm going to go in now and add a little bit more. I'm not going to belabor this drawing much more. This is the second of the warm-up drawings for me, so there's things in it that I'm not entirely happy with, but you know what? I'm going to live with it just as it is. Any questions before I leave these playing raptors behind? They're playing. If they weren't playing, this would have gone right through, hit this one's shoulder, and it would not be keeping its blade down here. And that, I'm glad you said something. One part of this drawing I need to play up is this saber-like toe. Raptors, as any Jurassic Park fan knows, the raptors had really scythe-like blades on this extended toe. And I'm going to have to let that white out dry before I go back in. Now the next drawing I'm going to do is just going to be a woodland scene, some trees, and I'm going to talk about drawing birches as well, because birches really lend themselves to drawing with black and white. This whiteout is going to take a little while to dry here, so I'll work on a few other parts of the drawing. The inevitable flies. If any of you have walked around the woods in Vermont after, say, May 15th, you know the black flies are everywhere. And to me, whether I'm drawing a drawing of a bear, a deer, you know, someone just walking in the woods, or just a woodland scene, it doesn't feel right to me until I see those little buzzing critters indicated somehow, because they are everywhere. Okay, this was just dry enough that I'm able to go in with the Sharpie and just catch the edge. That's a done drawing. All right, let's take a short break. I'm going to set up for the next drawing, and let's see if we can get this fuller shot of this. How's that? Here's what we've got. Any questions? Sorry about that reflection on there. Let's see if I bend it a little bit. You can see how I sharpened up the area above the hip. It's not quite that lump that it was. I've probably made the upper part of its throat, where the neck comes up, a little more prominent than I should have, but it's okay. Works okay for me. All right, let's take a quick break. Stretch your legs. Thanks. We're going to do another couple of demos now. I'm going to show you a few tricks involving brush, pen, ink, and working with additional implements of creative destruction. Single edge razor blades. In this case, I'm using a blade from a standard cutter, box cutter, although single edge razor blades work great too. Single edge, please. Double edge, you will cut your thumb and fingers to pieces. And some simple tricks you can use. A blunt instrument, like in this case a bread knife, when you're working with thicker paper to create some patterns. This is a piece that I was able to put far more time into than I'm ever able to put into the demo pieces that I'm doing. This was a cover that I did for a book that's coming out in April from Black Coat Press. It's a book called Panic in Paris. It's a translation of a 1910 science fiction novel, which is probably the first science fiction novel involving, or short story involving giant dinosaurs loose in a metropolis. So for this drawing, what I used was a brush. This is all brush work here. These heavy black forms, all brush. This was all done with brush, this plume of smoke. And what I did is I created a frame, because this was actually a collaborative drawing that I did with my good friend, Kat Garza Jr. Kat did the finish work on the illustration using computer color and stripping in some background elements. We had to have the Eiffel Tower in this drawing. And I ruined two versions of this drawing trying to draw the Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower is one of those structures that, even if you've never actually been there and see it, we all have a sense of what it looks like. And with that kind of precision geometry, if you just get a few lines off, it looks wrong. And Kat and I discussed the options, so I designed this entire drawing so that these black plumes of smoke would create like an egg-shaped frame for the action. And Kat laid in a beautiful sort of twilight Parisian landscape that looked suitably apocalyptic because of the color scheme.